Hello everyone, I thought I'd take a look at some satellite imagery shared by Copeshaw a few days ago on Twitter of Russia digging defensive positions and later on a video showing some of the work. This time not in Kherson but in Crimea. So it seems Russia is waking up to the fact that there's now a very real chance that Ukraine will be able to threaten the peninsula. The image which has been on screen is from northwest Crimea, near a town called Armyansk. It was taken on November the 5th. In the image, we can see a new zigzag trench being dug by an excavating vehicle, likely an MDK-3 or MTM-3. They're the two main trenches used by Russia. Before we look at the next satellite image, let's see where exactly this is. So it's here, in the central area between two roads leading into Crimea from Kherson. This is pretty much along part of the Crimean border with Kherson. There's another border crossing a little bit further to the north. I expect this section here was chosen as a defensive line because there's a small, narrow waterway heading from east to west, which forms a sort of natural barrier. Not a massive one, but any sort of waterway like this is an obstacle which will require bridging and so adds to the defence. I added a distance measurement to show that this span of this section is under 10 kilometres, so it is a natural choke point. Here it is zoomed out, so Russia is definitely considering the possibility of a Ukrainian push east from Kherson over the Dnipro. We saw in a past video that Russia is building many defensive lines on the eastern side of the Dnipro. Now, they are also fortifying Crimea itself. Now let's look at the next two satellite images. These are a before and after. The first one, on screen now, is from August the 11th. It shows the Chonhar checkpoint between Crimea and Kherson. You can see the remnants of old trenches around, but they are in a shoddy state and haven't been used for a while. This next one, from October the 10th, I find the date interesting because it shows reinforcing Crimea has been planned for over a month. It's not like Russia was suddenly spurred to do it by the sudden retreat from Kherson. As you can see in the image, the old trenches have been fully restored and made ready again. It's quite a large complex of trenches. We have the frontline trenches connected by a row of passage trenches, leading back to another series of trenches in the rear. There are also dug-in positions for vehicles, likely artillery pieces, which I have circled here. So this is on the eastern part of Crimea, the opposite end to the last satellite photos that we saw. Again, this is on a good defensive position. First, just north of it, is a bridge. I have no doubts that if Crimea was threatened, the bridge would be blown. Then, there's also a narrow waterway, always a bit of an obstacle to traverse. It's interesting that this is on the opposite side to Kherson, showing that Russia is concerned about Crimea being threatened not only from the east, but from the north too. It's a bit of preparedness and foresight we haven't seen from them so far. Here it is zoomed out, so it's on the eastern part of Crimea. So Crimea is only accessible for Ukraine through two narrow strips of land, one of which has a bridge spanning nearly 110 metres, which would no doubt be taken down by Russia immediately. So it will be a tricky nut to crack. In Ukraine's favour, when they push Russia back to the edges of Crimea, the Crimean bridge is the only way for them to resupply it, and that is partially destroyed, which will take a while to repair, and Ukraine can always hit it again. Now let's finally look at the video showing the construction of the defences. So the first part of the video we can see some dragon's teeth. I have a video planned for tonight or tomorrow, showing Russia demonstrating how these work, which will be pretty interesting. Then, we get a look inside the trench itself. They're simple, as trenches are. Dug-in walkways supported by wooden beams at the side, with metal on the ground to walk on and prevent it from becoming entirely muddy. The location of these is interesting. These are on the Arabat Spit. This is a narrow, 2 kilometres of the position of the trenches and Dragon's Teeth, spit of land running alongside the eastern side of Crimea. Zoomed out, we can see that Russia is concerned that Ukraine may attempt an assault along this spit, which would put them within spitting distance of the Crimean Bridge and effectively cut off the entire peninsula. I would be interested in seeing which general Russia has in charge of the land defence of Crimea, because he is showing an unusual amount of competence and foresight than we've seen so far from Russia. He's had these defensive trenches prepared in advance, just in case, had them covering both the east and the west entrances to Crimea, and has also spotted that the spit was a gap in the armour and is fortifying that too. So that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting. If so, please click like and subscribe. I'd appreciate it. Thanks again, and take care everybody.